we haven't had a world war in 79 years, but one nuclear exchange would, of course, kill more people than all wars in human history combined. So
you saying 79 makes it sound like you're counting.
I am counting because I think obviously it's like completely demonic and everyone pretends like it's great. Nuclear weapons are evil.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The use of them is evil. And the technology itself is evil. And in my opinion, it's just like, if you can't, that's just so obvious.
All right, guys, today we're diving into a question that's so insane, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but hear me out. Did demons help Nazis develop the atomic bomb? Because when you start looking at the connections between occult-obsessed Nazis, secret U.S. operations, and the birth of nuclear warfare, things get creepy. This isn't just some goofy theory from your uncle at Thanksgiving, although it kind of is for my family. There's a real connection between occultism and Nazi science, and the weapons that reshaped human history. And by the end of this video, you might question whether nuclear technology was really ever human to begin with. Alright, so we know Nazis did pretty wild stuff, but what a lot of people don't know is that Nazis were deeply entrenched in the occult. I'm talking about Himmler's obsession with Nordic ruins, mystical artifacts, and even trying to find the Holy Grail. Yes, like a literal Indiana Jones villain. So here's the facts. The SS under Himmler had a secret division called the Ahnenerbe. These guys were literally funding expeditions to Tibet to find lost Aryan magic. They believed a race of ancient Nordic superhumans who possessed magical knowledge could be rediscovered for war. They even tried to resurrect old pagan Germanic religions, because apparently world domination wasn't enough. Here's where it gets crazy. The Nazis had a nuclear program. It didn't succeed, but they were close. And you know what happened to their scientists after the war? They didn't just disappear. They were scooped up by the United States under Operation Paperclip. The key players were Werner Heisenberg, a theoretical physicist who led Nazi research, Kurt Diebner, who experimented with nuclear fission reactions, and Werner von Braun. He wasn't a nuclear guy, but an SS officer who helped build Nazi rockets. He later became the father of NASA. Yeah, that's right. NASA, our friendly space program, was literally built by an SS officer. But we're not talking about the moon. We're talking about nuclear hellfire. Here's where things get creepy. A lot of these Nazis believed in tapping into supernatural energy to achieve scientific breakthroughs. And guess what? After we took them in, America's nuclear program exploded, literally.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Oppenheimer was quoting the Bhagavad Gita, which describes divine, godlike weapons. But let's be real, if fallen angels have been feeding humans secret knowledge since Genesis, then maybe, just maybe, nukes weren't an exception. All right, let's zoom out. Nukes weren't the first time humans got divine knowledge that turned out to be too powerful for their own good. This pattern goes way back. In Genesis 11, in the Tower of Babel story, humanity tried to build a tower to the heavens, and God confused their languages so they couldn't finish the project. Why? Because some knowledge is dangerous in the wrong hands. Here's a crazy one out of the Old Testament. King Saul and the Witch of Endor. This guy was so desperate for guidance that he hired a medium to summon the spirit of the prophet Samuel. Now, this wasn't some random lady with a crystal ball. This was someone who actually made contact with something supernatural. And that's the creepy part, because whatever came through told Saul exactly what he didn't want to hear. His kingdom was doomed and he would die the next day. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. This is why trying to contact the dead is such a biblical red flag. Was it really Samuel's spirit? Or was it something pretending to be Samuel? And that's the question that comes up a lot of times, these modern cases of spiritual contact. Think about Ouija boards, for example. Are people actually talking to dead loved ones, or is something else answering them? Okay, alchemy. What's the first thing you think of when you think of alchemy? Some robed wizard trying to turn lead into gold? Well, kinda. But what if I told you alchemy wasn't just a pseudoscience? It was straight up occultism disguised as chemistry. Alchemy wasn't just about trying to make gold. It was about trying to achieve immortality. Alchemists believed they could create the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance that could transform materials, cure any disease, and grant eternal life. To achieve this, many of them conducted rituals that involved summoning spirits and invoking supernatural forces. One of the most famous alchemists, John Dee, literally claimed to have spoken with angels. Those angels gave him knowledge that directly led to occult rituals and summoning spells. Does that sound like angelic wisdom to you, or something else? So alchemy mimics the original sin of Adam and Eve. If you eat from the tree, you will be just like God. The pursuit of forbidden godlike power led many alchemists into madness, ruin, or worse. Some of their discoveries were later used in nuclear physics. Now tell me, was this really a scientific discovery, or was someone or something helping humanity reach knowledge we weren't supposed to have? Alright, now let's talk about something that you probably think of as a party game, Ouija boards. Listen, this isn't just spooky ghost story stuff. There have been real-world Ouija experiments that went way beyond harmless fun. My dad actually has had experiences with them in the past, which I'll probably talk about in a future video. But let's start with the most terrifying, the Zozo phenomenon. People using Ouija boards all over the world have reported communicating with a spirit named Zozo. At first, Zozo pretends to be friendly, but eventually things turn dark. People report poltergeist activity, nightmares, hallucinations, and mental breakdowns after speaking with Zozo. And the freakiest part, the name Zozo has been linked to demonic references in ancient texts. But what if I told you scientists actually tried to create a ghost and it worked? Because that's exactly what happened in the Philip experiment. In 1972, Canadian researchers created a fake ghost story about a person, Philip, a fictional character. They then held seances, using a Ouija board to focus their energy to summon Philip. Things started moving on their own, tables lifted and objects slid across the room. Even though Philip was made up, something answered them. This begs the question, were they just creating energy with their minds, or did they actually summon something else that was just pretending to be Philip?
Yeah, hold up.
We know that God forbids communication with spirits from Leviticus 19:31, and many demons pretend to be loved ones or family members to lure people in. And once the door is open, it's nearly impossible to shut. So tell me, do you still think the Ouija board is just a game? Okay, so we've talked about ancient forbidden knowledge. We've talked about occult experiments. But what about the final deception? Because according to the Bible, the last great act of demonic knowledge is still yet to come. Revelation 13 talks about the beast's knowledge, the Antichrist performing false wonders and miracles. People will worship him, believing he has ultimate wisdom. His number is 666, which some scholars believe represents humanity trying to achieve godhood without God. And there are some modern connections here with AI and transhumanism, where it seems that humanity is already trying to merge with godlike knowledge. And secret societies where elites are being fed hidden knowledge, just like the Watchers did in Genesis. And the false miracles with the Antichrist, where his wonders might actually be something like technology, not divine power. What if the greatest deception isn't about war or money? It's about knowledge. And what if we're already falling for it? Every instance of forbidden knowledge in history follows the same pattern. It promises power or enlightenment. It bypasses God's authority. And it leads to corruption, destruction, or punishment. Alright, so let's cut to the chase. Nuclear weapons are uniquely evil. Unlike swords, guns, or traditional bombs, they obliterate entire populations, including civilians. They contaminate lands for generations, like a biblical curse. They function through mass fear, mutually assured destruction, which sounds like a satanic mind game.
This coalition was to be torn asunder.
Here's a question. If Satan wanted to develop a weapon that could destroy the entire world, wouldn't it look exactly like nuclear bombs? So let's summarize. The Nazis were obsessed with the occult. They worked on nuclear research. The US took their scientists, and suddenly we had the power to destroy the world. Coincidence? Maybe. But I'll leave you with this. If fallen angels have been whispering knowledge into humanity's ears for centuries, what's stopping them from doing it today? If nukes weren't meant for us, should we have ever used them? And if Satan's greatest trick is making us believe he never existed, how much of our science is really ours? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are nukes a human invention, or is there something darker at play? And if you like this video, stay tuned for my future videos. Stay based, stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next one.